beautiful, beautiful morning today. Beautiful, beautiful morning today. Hello. I'm back. I'm doing this in the morning. Recording this on a Sunday. Uh, doesn't light doesn't necessarily make my teeth look that flattering, but I think we'll be okay for now. I'm also gonna, cause I noticed last time on I'm already looking at like the last video I posted, and I'm noticing like a few patterns like right now, how I'm looking instead of at the camera or I'm looking away. I'm more focused on what I look like over here. Best way to do that is, and just to avoid that distraction, is just to close OBS out like I just did. I usually like to have it just so that way I make sure you guys see what I'm doing on camera. It's like, for example, I'm gonna try and see this right now. I have a Dr. Pepper shirt on. I love Dr. Pepper. It's good stuff. This is zero sugar. There's all sorts of crap out there on how it's not good for you, but I really don't. I don't. I want to say I don't subscribe to the methodology. I think personally, with all of the sugar I've had like regular Coke before. I've had regular Coke. I've had root beer. Right, like regular sugary sodas actually bother me more than the zero sugar. And I don't know if that's because growing up we really got diet soda more than regular soda because that was just what my parents had. That's what they drank. I gotta close my door 1 second. Not that my parents are home. I just want to make sure audio from outside or anything it's not echoing into the room to kind of like destroy anything. But one thing I do, haha, I have a half-gallon, like double wall insulated water bottle I like to drink from. I usually have a full one of these a day, sometimes two. So I really only have like one maybe two cans of Dr. Pepper or whatever soda I decide to buy. More often than not, it's Dr. Pepper. Oh, it did spill on my keyboard. Fuck. Damn. Shit. Well, I'll have to clean that later. I have a tool for this. What am I doing? I'll pause the recording real quick. Point being is, I'm taking today, just kind of like make some adjustments to how I've been doing content so far, which is just from one video. But I'm changing my approach around a bit. You know, I said I wouldn't change the camera around a bit, but I found some settings I was looking at in OBS before that was like really good. So I just put them in. It's very simple. Just I stretched out my camera a bit so things look a little bit bigger. Now my head looks even larger. And my background is a lot more visible. You can see all my fancy bobbleheads, my Lego model. Actually, you might not be able to see my Lego models, but you'll see a lot more of my bed frame and all the stuff I have there. Much more easily because everything's kind of scaled up, and I centered it so more of the camera will be focused on what I'm doing and saying. I'm not going to hand motion the entire time. That's a little bit distracting. Oh my god. I had leftovers for breakfast this morning from when I went out to a diner yesterday. I kind of just I went to sometimes I go out to eat by myself. This has been something I've been doing for like I want to say like a few years more recently. I used to think like, oh, you have to go out to a restaurant. You have to, just you go out. You have to have somebody there. Like only go out with parents. Only go out with folks. I've been finding it much more inspiring to do that just by myself. Going out to my own place, doing what I want to do, handling what I want to handle, and just being or having that kind of just having that moment for myself. And I think that this I guess I don't want to say this is like part of a 3-point series of things I'm doing about like success and everything, but I think a lot of what I have taught is and what you want to do, no matter what you want to do, you always want to try and be as successful in what you do as possible. I think when you can guarantee success, you can't even really guarantee success. I've been having so many nuanced conversations about this. I'm a huge baseball fan. You can see my bobbleheads back there. I have the displeasure of watching the New York Mets play baseball at a terrible, in a terrible way. Um, but I think, and I can kind of speak to this more calmly. I'm not gonna rant and rave about like, oh, you should have had this, should have done this. I don't know why you thought this was a good idea. I'm not. I'm not gonna go into that. I'm a fan. I don't know how to run a baseball team. I don't know how to set. I don't know how to guarantee everything works. I don't know how you could be 100% consistent on it. But what I can say is that, especially in the land of sports, there is no way for you to guarantee constant success every year. You can get close to it. You can get as close to it as possible. You can have they sports commentators and sports writers talk all the time about how there are like sports dynasties and there's um like, oh, these players are nigh unstoppable. You cannot possibly replace or beat these guys because they're just so good at what they do. And there's talk of this all the time. There's talk of it even in baseball with the right now it's the Dodgers, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and how and what my personal favorite thing is that to kind of try and capstone this little bit of a tangent I'm doing to describe this, but important that I take it. Uh, there is no guarantee of success in sports. You get as close to it as possible, and you just put people in the right position to play their best or get the best job done, and you hope that that is what will turn the corner for them, and that's what will make them uh, champions, or that will make them success. That will make them a success story. That will make them. One thing I love to talk about with sports, especially, is when you have complete underdogs or people that you know might struggle at first, but then find a way to succeed down the line. One of my favorite sports stories, one thing I wanted to write for and talk about was, in particular for the NBA this year, 2025-26 was the New York Knicks. I was not, and this is more of like a me problem. I've never had a full basketball team to call my own until today. That is, I get not really today until a lot of what happened this season came to fruition. Uh, for at least a few years for the Knicks, especially. I'll also talk about the Nets as well because I was a Nets fan for the interim while the Knicks were so out of contention it wasn't even funny. Um, but I was a Nets fan for a bit because I really believed that the change of scenery for the organization would actually help it. I wasn't a New Jersey. I was more of a Brooklyn Nets fan. The Brooklyn Nets is a more recent thing that happened, like at least in the last 15, 20 years of the NBA. And I was a fan because they seemed like they had it all together. They seemed like they were getting the right piece in the right places. They were getting good talent, but they had the same issue that, honestly, in looking back, they had the same issue that the Knicks had. And I should have realized that. They were expecting something like Carmelo Anthony, uh, like the Knicks, Carmelo Anthony. They were expecting like Kevin Durant and Steph Curry to just push them in the right direction and guarantee them success when I don't think that that's the right way or right philosophy. I think it is a combination of people who are very good and very competent at their sport that could all lean on each other in a sort of phased network. And that network and that bond, those bonds, that allows you to, that forms a net where you could have one really good fisher. You could have a really good fisherman. He knows all the basics. He knows everything. But if you're expecting that one fisherman to feed the village, then that's not gonna fly. No pun intended for fly fishing, but if you have one really good angler, one guy who always casts off and then in 5 seconds guarantees you a fish, that's fantastic. One fish every 5 seconds, he's able to just he knows exactly where to put his fishing pole. He's able to lead the fish correctly and catch that fish every 5 seconds. That's great. What happens when he has an off day or when he's out, when maybe he's sick? Maybe he's not on top of his game. Maybe he's not 100% perfect. I think that that is when you are not successful. When you have one person doing one job really well, like really, really, really well, that's a problem. It should be a network of guys who are not the world, not world class, not the world's greatest, right? Um, when you have, but they're really good at what they do, and I think that the New York Knicks had that. You know, um, it was a bunch of really talented guys, really capable dudes. Not to short the accomplishments of Jalen Brunson at all, but Jalen Brunson's not that entire basketball team. I'm being 100% honest. It came down to guys like Karl Anthony Towns. It came down to OG Anunoby. That game four finals tip in was an immortal play. An immortal play. That really kind of sealed that deal for a lot of people. Uh, Mikal Bridges, his individual contributions throughout, very crucial and key points. Uh, I'm not going to speak to much of the other sublines, but Landry Shamet, I'm getting a Shamet jersey because I don't think I've ever heard or seen someone go 12 for 30. Yeah, I think it was like 12 for 13 threes in an NBA playoff series. I've never heard of that. And I think that like everyone will say, oh, Steph Curry could do that. I'm like, yeah, Steph Curry probably has done that. I don't have the stat track up there right now, but a guy like Landry Shamet, like a guy who has been on so many different basketball teams, so many different, and trying to find his place, trying to find something, and as a bench guy going in and hitting 12 for 13, that just goes to show you, in my opinion, what I call the counter to the amazing angler is the the village net. With someone like Jalen Brunson kind of at the helm, kind of helping keep the net together, but you also have Karl Anthony Towns, who is one piece of the net. OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, uh, shit. Uh, I said OG already, but well, you have a bunch of guys who are really good at what they do, and they're able to stay consistent and stay in it. That will feed your village. That will get you what you need to do. I think one thing that I really like about um, this theory in particular uh, of guaranteeing yourself success is that success is not an individual. It is an individual accomplishment, but more often than not, it is not an individual contribution. I think you look at people like in sports. You look at like what is a player without the coaches? What is a child without a village? What is just about any, what is a game without a development team? What is a story without without writers and editors? What's a movie without key people involved in the production process? Whether it be like on set people just managing equipment to the actors to the one individual success is not without everybody else, and you will see this in like thank like award ceremony speeches, when you're seeing sports teams win chips, uh, any kind of recognition or anything like that. It might be a accomplishment rewarded to an individual or a series of people, but it's never really done or possible without the contributions of others who have brought you there. And I think one of the things that I talked about of this self actualization thing, to kind of go back to my initial point, is I think taking time for yourself is essential, but knowing what helped you, excuse me, knowing what helped you build that success, like that individual time, that moment, is really important. And I think that this is where a lot of self actualization kind of comes to point, is that you are a collective of personalities, maybe a cult of personality, which is a song. I think that you're allowed to kind of, and that's the whole thing, is you're an amalgamation. You are everything, imitation is here as form of flattery. That's the word. So naturally, when you're growing up, you learn to kind of copy and clone the habits of others. You take upon, whether it be their good habits or even their bad habits. I mean, how many times have I cursed, and my father's yelled at me, has been huge. Like I've had my dad yell at me for cursing so many times, but then my dad curses. So it's just like, well, you taught me how to do that. That's on you. Uh, but you're an amalgamation of everybody who has contributed to you. And I think that's the one thing that you have to kind of self actualize, is that you are a representative of the village that raised you. You're a representation of the people who have had an impact on your life. And I think that you have as much control over that as you do, um, contributing to it. I think that there is a level of, well, I always say a level of beauty to something. That's kind of implied. I think there's a level of beauty to just about everything, but the words kind of are phasing, like kind of slipping through my fingers right now to describe this. And it's tough because I want to be able to like describe this accurately. I want to be able to talk about it like logically and rationally. But I think this is just one of those things where it's the self is very obscure to kind of grab and grasp. And I think that that's kind of intentional. I don't think you really know who you are until you take the time for yourself. And even with all the time I've taken for myself over like the past couple of years, times where I've just kind of sat and like listened and reflected, or went out and done something by myself, sat somewhere alone, or just thought about something on my own. Grasping yourself is tough because you're a cacophony of things. You are a multitude of personalities intersecting and weaving within one another. A you're a union. Um and the sum of the it's like how they say the sum of us is greater than the measure of ourself is greater than the sum of our parts. And I think that that's kind of what a lot of the self-reflection for me has done. It's allowed me to become a better person because I know that all of my parts contribute to that. But it is the union of that, is the fabric of that that makes me resilient. It's the net. It's the net that allows me to capture and feed the village for myself. Of the village of myself, I should say. And I think that that's something that I have been trying to grasp and talk about for a very long time, is what kind of makes self-actualization. And I think because you're at all points in life you are tested. You are I don't want to say you are thrown to the wolves. Sometimes you are thrown to the wolves. Sometimes it's a trial by fire. Sometimes you are just put out and cast out into a situation where nothing happens. Do you unravel or do you stay firm? And I think that it's just situations that you find yourself in contribute a great deal to the overall quality of self. And sometimes you are really tested, and sometimes you are put through hell. You get battered, you get like ripped, torn, uh, rended asunder, split between people, uh, conflicted, and this is it's not avoid it's not it's you can't avoid this forever. Even if you were to sit and do nothing and isolate yourself completely, you could not possibly avoid it. In order for you to make progress in life, in order for you to be able to get to your next step on your journey, there is going to be testing and hardening of virtues and ideals. And I think one of those things is, and what I like to call self actualization, when you take the time for yourself to kind of sit, think, reflect on things, reflect what happened, how much you kind of go through and you're put through what you're thinking of, what you're handling. when you go through these motions, and you finally are allowed to, I guess, heal and put yourself back together a bit, I think that that is, and just like breaking a bone, not only does it heal, but it goes back in place stronger than it once was. It reinforces, you reinforce, and you prepare yourself for the next onslaught. I have I've just come to understand the power of this, and I wanted to talk about it because one of those things that I think really helps on your journey is being able to reflect on it, taking away lessons and being able to learn and reinforce yourself. So that way you can go back out there and test your theories or test yourself once again. And that union, that mesh that everybody contributes to, everybody builds, everybody kind of assembles in full, that allotment of effort by all parties involved creates something strong and creates fabric and creates that fabric of you, creates that mesh that goes back out there, battered in tropical winds, attempting to go out there and fish and contribute, be something, have purpose, find meaning. And I think I might be saying things that some of you guys will probably say, "Oh, that's really simple. Oh, that's easy." Like, "Oh, this is like kind of like commonplace. This is very common like philosophical theory." I don't want to say it's common philosophical theory. I think that this is stuff people may think of subconsciously or might not even see from their perspective. Because that's the thing. It's all about perspective. So, I just want to bring it up to how I've seen things and what I've come to. A lot of people say I come from a very mature sort of perspective. I think about things in a very matured sense for a while, and I think this is just. I don't want to say that I've perfected anything. I haven't. I am far from perfect. I still. The vision of perfect is changes every day as well. What everybody sees as perfect changes constantly. And one thing that I definitely have taken away from a lot of people seeing my more mature perspective is, well, why not go out there and really kind of share it, talk about it, you know? Because I think the thing is that, and this kind of comes back to it, is your responsibility as a fisherman, like in the oldest of possible times, a hunter, as a person, is your job is to feed the village. Now, not everybody can. I'm not saying that not everybody can fish. Not everybody can fish well. Not everybody is like a not everybody's a master angler. It takes them a long time to be able to fish out for the village, and or even just fish for themselves. And the whole point is that you know, because you have this knowledge of maybe doing something, or maybe you have this perspective or this thought, to keep it to yourself is tantamount to destruction of the village. To keep knowledge sacred and to keep things safe. Sometimes, even if those things hurt, not sharing them could be detrimental. It could cause problems down the line. It can hurt people. And I think if I don't share knowledge, or if we don't share what we know or what we find or what we earn or what is granted to us, if we don't go out there and discuss it, talk about it, gain from it, learn from it, we are basically not allowing growth to take place among everybody. Our job is we feed people in a village as a hunter to help grow, develop, get people what they need, the nutrition that they need to survive, and not only survive, but thrive, to grow, to learn, to expand, to develop. That is the entire history of mankind, the entire history of us. We have learned to hunt and perfect our craft to the extent now that, with all of this domestication, instead of being nomadic and having to rely on the lay of the land, We instead go and we domesticate. We and then we begin to, you know, we turn uh, bits of crops into land, into farmland, and into plantations, and then industrialize and expand. But the entirety of mankind's history was built upon the predication, I think I'm using that word correctly, the ability to share what we learn, understand and talk about perspective, and summarize things. Because I think more often than not, we struggle. We do. We do struggle to share things, especially nowadays. Everybody keeps things secret. Everybody doesn't. You don't want things going out there that will, potentially harm you and all that. But that is, to me, that is selfish. I think that there's more of a benefit to having the discussion if it's for the growth and progress of mankind than to avoid it in fear that things will be taken from you. Because everybody always has a lot to give. Everybody has something to give at all times. And, sometimes it feels like you give so much and everybody takes so much away from you that, well, I feel like I don't have anything for myself. What am I supposed to do? But it is in that giving that we grow the world around us. For a very long time, or for at least a brief period of American history, well, at least the ones that they'll share favorably. Like where the Vanderbilts would often contribute to New York culture or building the infrastructure of New York. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, a lot of the the uh, the pillars of industry have contributed to building the greater part of, well, the world we live in. Well, not just New York. I mean, but the world we live in. Without the ability to create and give forth, like, whether it be a monetary contribution in its physical sense, or whether it be something like this, purely philosophical or theoretical, or just discussing this, like me giving this time now to talk about this and post this for all of you to see, ridicule, discuss, comment, bully, harass. I mean, I talk about it negatively, but at the same time, there's truth to it. But just the ability to have this moment where I talk with everybody that sees this video about an experience of mine or experiences that I've seen or things that I've noticed. The ability to do that and the ability to take this time to do that. I don't want to say I'm doing this in the service of the kindness of my heart, like, oh, I'm doing, but in a way, I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart because I want to do this. Maybe for me, it's partly for myself. Maybe there's a selfish element to it. Maybe it's like, oh, this will get me notoriety and attention. This will be something people discuss about me. This will put me in a good light. But that's kind of the point of what we do as a people. Our entire life exists for legacy. We exist to leave an imprint upon the world. And I want to do just that. I want to start leaving an imprint. I don't want to just look at something mindlessly. So much of society is now, especially with how things have evolved. YouTube Shorts, the Reels, TikTok, and all the short form content that is designed to just be watched. It's just designed to be seen and engaged with, and just it makes somebody money because they're able to advertise something. But we live in a time where content is just so readily accessible and able to be consumed and taken into account, and you're able to actually just like extrapolate from it, and just like all you're supposed to do is just absorb all of this stuff, and you're expected to just retain it. Like, that's not feasibly possible. I don't even remember, like, I was watching reels not too long ago. I don't even remember, like, maybe the fourth or fifth reel I watched. Like, not a lot of that content has an imprint upon me, or at least a long-term imprint. And I think that's the one thing that I want to do. Instead of me doing this short form content, which I might do short form content if it makes sense, so it's another way for you to engage with people. It's another way for you to talk things through with people. And if it makes sense for me to do, I'll do it. But for right now, what I think is best for me and what is mostly my calling in particular is to talk things out at length and have a mature discussion about what's being talked about here. So ultimately, self actualization, I guess, in short, kind of impromptu, brief, unscripted little moment, if you would. Uh, Self actualization is kind of a realization that everybody in your life, every meaningful person who has had an interaction with you, uh, parents, guardians, siblings, like family, friends, teachers, co-workers, associates, colleagues, fellow students, literally anything and anyone can have a sort of imprint on you. And as you grow as a person, that network only expands and expands further and further. I don't want to say every single person I've ever interacted has had the world's most impactful contribution, but anything in your path, it's just like out in space in the stars. Anything and everything has a gravitational pull towards it, whether we know it or not. You know, our own galaxy is being pulled by something out there in space, by a series of things out there in space. Everything has a pull, a tug, a give and a take. Some more than others, but everything has a contribution. Everything has a sphere of influence. And it's our job to be able to understand that sphere isn't necessarily, that sphere of influence doesn't necessarily equate to us, but it builds us and it makes us who we are individually. We'll be tested constantly and we'll be put through the ringer, but ultimately, self actualization is understanding and taking the time to know who you are ultimately at the end of a lot of this. I think it's a good point to, and I just pulled up the OBS screen again so I could look at myself sort of eloquently. I think I did a pretty good job maintaining this. This might be how I do things in the future. I like how this looks. I shaved for this. I looked really nice in this. I just got to edit out the part where I spilled a little bit of Dr. Pepper on my keyboard, which, I mean, happens. But I think this is, if you don't mind the coughing and a little bit of the, I'm a little bit stuffed and congested. I don't know what's up today. A little bit of going outside, doing some work. I have some things I want to do outside today for the house especially. So one of those things I'm going to be doing is probably, well, that. So I think this is a good place for me to end it. This isn't nearly as long. I'm looking at the time on the recording now, which is good, or it's bad, meaning I talk too quick. Looking over here does help me pace my voicing better and does help me pace my time better. But as always, I welcome you guys to kind of talk and discuss things. Talk to me about your personal experiences. Talk to me about how you guys have been going through things, how you have been processing things. And ultimately, I don't want to say what motivates you to get out of bed every day, but what motivates you to be the best version of you possible? Is it people in your life? Is there an influence or someone you've been talking to that has been particularly impactful to you? I want to talk about these things because I think that they're very helpful. And I think that when you know exactly what builds you up, that's a great step towards self actualization. And if that's something I can do to help you guys, then I'm more than happy to help you guys do that. But for now, I'm going to edit this one, chop this one up, and put it back out there. So thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys all taking the time to look at this one. Leave a little comment. You don't have to like the video. I don't really. You could hate this video for all I care. But feedback is always welcome, and I just thank you guys for watching the video.